everybody, welcome to our section 6.4 lecture video on problem solving with proportions. So today we're going to do some word problems that are with proportions, okay? So whenever you're solving word problems that involve proportions, the first thing you're going to need to do is just set it up. So set up your proportion, and so some general guidelines is that the numerators should have the same units. Okay? So we're comparing t-shirts to t-shirts or dollars to dollars, okay? The denominators also should have the same units, they should match. And then each ratio is part of the same event, I guess is the best way I can describe that. So maybe either the same shopping trip or the same fishing trip or the same whatever that event may be. So each ratio on each side kind of go together, okay? Once you have it set up, solve it, and then you need to round it if necessary. Sometimes you just need to round up to make sense or round down to make sense. Sometimes the problem will tell you to round to the nearest tenth, or round to the nearest hundredth. Just pay attention to those things. Check to make sure that your answer is reasonable. Make sure that you actually answer the whole question to double check your work. So along with the units, you'll notice along every one of these problems, I'm going to write my units. And I would encourage you guys to do that at home as well. Write your units when you're setting up these proportions to make sure that those numerators match. Make sure those denominators match. They may not be as easy as dollars. They may be sunfish. They may be likes vanilla ice cream. But you need to write what those represent so that you make sure that you set it up correctly. Okay? So let's try a few of these and we'll see how they go. At a recent party, it cost $9.50 for refreshments for 10 guests. At this rate, how much would it cost to have refreshments for 80 guests? So my first party would be $9.50 for 10 guests. That's my first ratio. To finish my proportion, I have to have that second event, so they're going to have a new party with more people. How much would it cost? So the cost is the dollars, and I don't know how much it is. That's what it's asking for. How much would it cost? So I'll put a variable there. To have refreshments for 80 guests. So 10 guests was on the denominator, 80 guests will be on my other denominator. So you'll notice that dollars matches up with dollars, guests matches up with guests. The left side is the party that I already had. The right side is the party that they're planning for. Those are different events. Okay. Now that we're all set up, we can go ahead and solve. So cross multiplying, I'll have 10 times x is 10x. Then I'll do 950 times 80. So 9.5 times 80 would be 760. Then to solve for x, I'll divide both sides by 10. So my missing amount would be, $76. So how much would it cost? It would cost $76 for 80 guests. Okay, let's try another one. The park ranger stocks the children's fishing pond, keeping a ratio of 4 sunfish to 3 perch. So there's my starting ratio, is 4 sunfish to 3 perch. Okay. If he puts 300 sunfish into the pond, so he's putting 300 sunfish into the pond, is that going to go in the numerator or the denominator? It should go in the numerator to match with the other sunfish. So 300 sunfish go into the pond. How many perch should be put into the pond? So perch was in our denominator, and that's where our variable is going to go. So on my left side is the ratio that they gave me. On the right side goes with the pond. So we're putting fish into the pond, that's that event. Sunfish matches with sunfish. Perch matches with the missing amount of perch here. So we're set up correctly. Let's go ahead and solve it. So I'll have 4 times x would be 4x. We'll have 3 times 300, which is 900. And then to solve for x, I'll divide both sides by 4. So I'm going to get 225 perch as my answer. Okay. And that does make sense. If you want to double check yourself, there are more sunfish than perch. Not a lot more, but there are more. So we should have less than 300 as our answer, and we do. It's not, a crazy amount lower, but it is lower. So that makes sense. Alright, let's try some more. Alright. My next one says Kate is 5 foot 3 feet tall. That's me. I'm about 5.25 feet tall. She measured her shadow, and that shadow is 3 feet long. She wants to know how tall a tree is, so she measures its shadow. This is called indirect measurement, in case you're curious. That tree's shadow is 14 feet long, so how tall is the tree going to be? So I'm going to go ahead and have a Kate ratio and a tree ratio. So Kate is 5.25 feet tall. Okay. And my shadow is 3 feet long. So this is Kate. This is the shadow. Okay? And the more information you put around those numbers, the better you'll be to match things up. Okay? So when I measured the tree, I measured the shadow. The shadow is 14 feet long. Where's that 14 feet gonna go? Is it gonna go in the numerator or the denominator? It should go in the denominator because we're matching up our shadows. So it's 4 feet long for the shadow of the tree. How tall is a tree? So we have height here and shadow length down below. Okay? So that's how we set this one up. Now we're ready to solve it. So cross multiplying, I'll have 3 times x is 3x. I'm going to have 5.25 times 14. So 5.25 times 14 is 73.5. To solve for x, I'll divide both sides by 3. So that'll give me 73.5 divided by 3 is 24.5. So how tall is the tree? It's 24.5 feet tall. Or 24 feet 6 inches if you really want to go that far. Okay. My next one says a recent study shows that 9 out of 10 college students have a social media account. Of those who use social media, 1 out of 3 have a Twitter account. If SCC has a current enrollment of approximately 9,000 students, how many SCC students have a Twitter account? Alright, so let's see what all we have here. It says that the recent study shows 9 out of 10 college students have a social media account. This 9,000 students is what we have matching up here. So I'm going to have to start out with this first ratio because it has college students, which is going to match up with that 9,000 college students, okay? So 9 out of 10. So what are the units there? So 9 students would have social media out of 10 total college students. Okay? And let's see, SCC has about 9,000 students. So where is that going to go? That'll go in the denominator. And that x that I'm solving for, it's not going to answer my question of how many have a Twitter account, but it will tell me how many have social media. So let's start there. Sometimes you have to do a couple of steps to get our answer, and I think that's going to be the case here. So to cross multiply, I'll have 10 times x, which is 10x. And 9 times 9,000, which would be 81,000. Okay? To solve for x, I'll divide both sides by 10. So then I'm going to have 8,100 students that have social media with social media. So that didn't quite answer my question of the Twitter account, but it got me a lot closer because it says of those who use social media, so now we know how many are using social media, 1 out of 3 have a Twitter account. So now I have a new little part here. So 1 out of 3 have a Twitter account. So 1 has Twitter out of 3 students with social media. Okay? So my 8,100 students with social media is going to match up with social media. And my x that I solved for is finally going to tell me how many use Twitter. So cross multiplying here, I'll have 3 times x is 3x. 1 times 8100 is 8100, and I'll divide by 3 on both sides to solve for x. So this will give me x equals 2700. So out of the 9,000 students enrolled at SCC, approximately 2,700 students have Twitter. Okay, according to that information. Alrighty, the last one says the nutrition facts on a box of pasta says that a serving size of 2 ounces has 42 grams of total carbohydrates and 7 grams of protein. Obviously, the serving size on the box, the nutritional facts probably tell them lots of other things, but that's what we have so far. You eat 3 ounces of pasta for dinner one night. How many carbs are in 3 ounces of pasta, and how many grams of protein are in 3 ounces of pasta? Alright, so let's answer one question at a time. So how many total carbohydrates are in that 3 ounces of pasta? So we have ounces, carbs, and protein up top. Which two are we going to use to try to find how many carbohydrates there are in that 3 ounces? We probably should use carbohydrates, and we probably should use ounces, since those are the things in my question. So from the nutrition facts, I've got 2 ounces of pasta, go with 42 grams of carbohydrates. Okay. Then we ate 3 ounces of pasta. Where's the 3 ounces going to go? In the numerator. Good. And how many total carbohydrates are there? That should match up with carbs. Okay. So to cross multiply here, we'll have 2 times x is 2x. We'll have 3 times 42. And 3 times 42 is 126. We'll divide by 2 on both sides to solve. And 126 divided by 2 is 63. So if you ate 3 ounces of pasta, you just had 63 grams of carbs, of carbohydrates. Alright. How many grams of protein are there going to be in the same serving size in 3 ounces? I'll let you guys try that one. See if you can set it up and see if you can solve for how much protein there would be in 3 ounces of pasta. Go ahead and pause your video, see if you can set it up, and see if you can solve this one. And we'll go over the answer in 3, 2, 1. For your setup, you should have 2 ounces of pasta, go with 7 grams of protein, equals 3 ounces of pasta over x grams of protein. That should be your setup. Then to solve it, you'll have 2 times x equals 3 times 7, which would be 21. If you divide by 2 on both sides, you're going to get 10.5. So you'll have 10.5 grams of protein in that serving. How'd you guys do? Alright, like I said with these, make sure that you're putting your units so that you can match things up correctly. I tried to do, this one where we had lots of information and we needed to pick out what we needed for our ratio. In D, I tried to pick one where you have more than one step. You start with what you're given to get to an intermediate step, and then use that to get to a final answer. And some other ones just to get you guys started. So good luck this week. You can do this, okay? Take it slow and do it well. Have a great week.